In this video, I finally get my hands on the Futaba GYD550 gyro, arguably probably the best gyro that you can get for rear-wheel drive RC drifting. I'm going to be hooking it up in my Red Cat RDS using a Futaba T4PV older controller, showing you basic setup method and making sure that it can work even if you don't have the fancy 7PXR or 10PX that are out there. You can still get this up and running, and does it do well? That's what we're here to answer. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy. This is Roadside RC. You'll tend to find me bashing or crawling or drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. One of my passions is helping people get started in RC drifting. So we're gonna get this Futaba GYD550 out of the box and see how it performs. So as to be expected, of course, we have the GYD550 itself, which is awesome. We have the wires that we need to hook it up. We have some zip ties, some double-sided tape to mount it, the patented little Futaba adjuster screw thing that they provide with all their gyros. Then, of course, the instructions, which are going to be very important for this. But of course, the version that I got, the instructions are all in Japanese, and so my Google Translate on my phone is about to get a little bit of a workout, I think. Clearly, one of the first steps that we need to do is mount the gyro itself. I'll be mounting it low and centered here in the deck for a nice stable position away from any kind of vibrations, and kind of in somewhat neutral. And making sure that I have access to these buttons and dials right here. Once I plug in everything, I'm not going to really need to worry much about the plugs anymore, but these buttons and everything that you have here on the front, you're going to need access to those for setting the gyro and tuning it later, so you need to make sure you still have clear access to that. Note, as you are wiring it up, they actually do give you a little handy-dandy cheat sheet right here. So the bottom plug is your servo, the center is your gain, which you'll be putting onto channel 3 or some other channel, and the top channel here is the RX, which goes to your channel 1 on your receiver. So they do give it to you that, which is nice, because the previous Futaba gyros didn't actually clearly put that on there. I have the gyro now physically mounted. I haven't tied up any of the wires yet or anything, because we need to make sure that it just physically works first. So controller's on, and I'm going to fire up the car. We have red blinking going to the green flash. You see the twitch of the tires there? That means that the servo is initializing. Now, if I turn the wheel, does it turn the right direction? That's step one. Yes. So it is turning the direction I want, so I don't need to worry about reversing it. There is a whole section in the instructions about reversing the gyro, so I don't need to worry about that. I can turn all the way over here, so I clearly need to reset my endpoints, because that is not as far as I want that to be able to travel. So that's something that we're going to need to do, of course. And then we're going to look at, is the gyro turning the correct direction? So if I pick it up and I move it towards me, this should counter steer towards me as well. And yes, it is doing it. It's not running a bunch of gain. It's not really flopping the wheels around a bunch, but it's doing the correct direction. So we have the right direction in both gyro function and steering, which is awesome. Everything appears to work, which means I got things plugged in correctly. And we're going to turn it off, and we're going to come back and do the setup that it does suggest here in the manual. So in this second page here, the manual, we can actually kind of see it through my Google Translate here. So there is some main settings that it suggests that you go through first when you're first going into it. Making sure that you have it into the normal or the SR servo type. Do you need to reverse the gyro? We do not, which is awesome. The neutral setting, I don't believe we're going to have to change anything on that, so that's probably good. And then we're going to have to set the steering limit, which is this last little bit, which is definitely what we want to do. And they have a whole separate piece over here to the side of how to set the endpoints, because we definitely need to set the steering endpoints for the car itself. Running through these settings in order to do some of these initial gyro calibrations are really a little bit nerve-wracking, if I'm honest. So you take your little handy-dandy tool and you hold this button down for 3 seconds until you see that red LED blink. Now it goes into a green blink. And at first you'll see a 1 blink and then done. The 1 blink is getting into the servo type, and if it's doing 1 green blink, that means that it is the normal servo, which is what we want for this. So now I hold it down for 2 more seconds till I see a little orangey flash right there. Now it's doing 2 blinks. 2 blinks is if you need to reverse the gyro. So again, you can push the button just fast and it would change the gyro direction if you need to. We are on to the next one, which is hold again. You can see the orange, there it is. Setting number 3 is the neutral setting, which so far I do not believe I have an issue with. So we're gonna go on to number 4. Again, the orange flashes. Now, green is flashing 4 times. All right, and when that is just getting us into limit setting period. Now, if I short press the gyro once, boom, it brings the car way over here. So it says that you can then turn it based on the transmitter. Okay, there you see it. Now I can, by steering on the controller itself, I can change how far it wants to limit. I hit the button and it'll accept that one and it'll go to the other side, other limit. And by using the controller, again, I can bring it to where I want it to go. I can hit that button again. Now it's going back into center. All right, so that is the steering endpoint set. Now the last one, you want to be careful with, if you hold it again, you're going to get into orange one more time. This puts it into the last setting, which is a reset mode. You can basically wipe the whole thing. If you are then done, you come over here, hit the power button, turn the whole thing off. Now we've gone through that initial setting. Now, honestly, at this point, the gyro should be set, and we should be able to actually go and try to drive it for this first time. I'm going to come in here to channel 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the gyro gain to 0. This is something I always like to do. Right now I have a red LED on there. If I go to 0, the LED goes off, and that tells me that I am actually physically controlling the gyro gain through the controller. If I go to the negative side, it should go green. Yep, and there we have a green LED on. I don't know if it's coming through in the camera, but we have a green LED on, and that green LED then puts this into a normal gyro mode instead of the AVCS. And so that's an easy way for you to try both of those modes and see which one you prefer. Based on my history, I've always liked the AVCS, and so I'm going to jump back over to that side and crank the gyro up here. I had it about 50 or 60% with my previous gyro. That's where I'm going to start giving this thing a test drive. Test driving this gyro, really interesting actually. I was surprised I could run AVCS and non-AVCS mode. Both of them felt really solid. The magic thing about this Futaba gyro is it just works. Like most of the Futaba gyros that I've ever had, they've always just been smooth. They are just very intuitive to me. They fit in my driving style very well. Previously, I was running the RevD Revox, which is a really good gyro, and I've been really happy with it. And I've been running the GYD470 from Futaba. Both of those, I was only running something in the, like, with the RevD, I had to run in the 50 to 60% gyro gain in order to not get any kind of gyro wobble or shake out of it. With the GYD470, I could run a little bit higher. With this GYD550 now in this drift car, I literally was at 100% gyro gain, both on AVCS mode and non-AVCS mode, and had no wobble whatsoever. Part of that is because it actually does have some kind of a dampener built into it. When looking at the manual here, yes, there are 8 different settings of dampening built in from the factory. Step 6 is the normal AVCS mode. Step 5 is the normal mode, the amount of dampening that's already built in. So that's something you could continue to tune if you want to, depending on how your feel is with the car. All you have to do is start with a short press on the gyro and it gets into some blinking, and then it's just basically that 1 through 8. Sounds a lot kind of like the RevD programming. If I'm honest, it kind of has the 1 through 6 and it's kind of the amount of dampening feels similar. And let me remind you that all this testing that I've done has not been with the super fanciest of controllers or through the SBUS. And I know that holds a lot of folks back, is can you actually get the value out of this GYD550 without those 2 things and spending all that extra money? And yeah, it turns out you can actually really enjoy this gyro without having to spend all that extra money to get all that extra equipment. If you do want to use that SBUS functionality, in the manual it actually says you need the R334 SBUS receiver, which I don't have. I can provide a link for you to it down in the video description. I have the R304, so not the 334, I have the 304. I'm gonna plug it in and see what happens. What do you think? So all I have done is I unplugged the third channel, which is the gyro gain, and I moved my first channel, which should be the steering input, from channel 1 over to the SBUS. I literally haven't touched anything else at all, and what I noticed is as soon as I do that, well, gyro still appears to be working. Steering's still working with the controller, so it at least didn't fry anything, so that's a good step. I'm going to dive into the controller now and see what the heck I've done. Now that I have it plugged into the SBUS mode, I have been digging around, and you got to realize this is a very old controller. This is a T4PV. I don't even remember, they don't sell them anymore. It is an older one. I need to upgrade. But there is gyro mix, and you can go in here and you can actually hit it from AVCS to normal mode back and forth, and then you can come down and you can control the gyro gain just like that. But the truth is, otherwise it doesn't really give me any other added functionality compared to how I had it wired before. I've gone back and I've been driving this a little bit more, testing with it even a little bit more here, even in my limited test space that I have in my garage. And at the end of the day, final all-in end result, what do I think about this GYD550? Is it truly one of the best RC gyros that you can get? Yes, 100%. It is 100% the gyro that I will be running in this car from now on. And it makes me want to upgrade controllers to see if I can get even more of that functionality that's in there. Because I feel as if what I'm doing right now is just the tip of the iceberg with what this gyro can do. And oh my gosh, if I could tune it just that little bit more, what could I get out of it? So be on the lookout for more information about this. Yes, you can run it in regular mode and it works just fine, and it is a beautifully smooth gyro. Even if you don't have the fancy controller, and even if you don't have the fancy receiver, you can still get a lot of value out of running this Futaba GYD550. And I hope that is what you were looking for out of this video, and that this gave you some value. If you have any questions about it, leave them down in the video comments below, and I will be happy to try to answer as many of them as I can. There's a link to this product in the video description, so if you are looking to buy one, please use that link. It gives a small little kickback to the channel to help me, but it also doesn't cost you a penny to do it. So thank you very much for that. Any other drift tech that you're looking for, playlist is popping up right here to your right. Thank you and goodbye.